Joining me now, the man who is running the investigation in Congress, Kentucky Congressman and House Oversight Committee Chairman, James Comer. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
What can you tell us about your investigation? I know we spoke on Sunday and you said you gave Biden aides and his doctor, Dr. O'Connor, a choice: come forward voluntarily or face a subpoena. Have you heard back?
I have, and I'm very pleased to announce that the discussions are going extremely well. I fully expect the four staffers and I to announce a date any hour now as to when they're going to voluntarily come in and answer questions from the House Oversight Committee in a transcribed interview. We're going to communicate for the final time with Dr. O'Connor's attorneys this morning in a couple of hours. I fully expect him to comply along with the staffers. If he does not, he will receive a subpoena within a few hours. So I think the investigation's moving along rapidly, Maria. And I'm also here to say this morning that we're expanding the investigation. Obviously, there were more than those four staffers that were involved in the audit pen. We're going to start bringing in additional staffers. They're going to be receiving communication from the Oversight Committee today, and we're going to be asking them to come in as well. We're going to bring in everybody that we think had anything to do with the decision-making process as to how these executive orders and pardons were signed using the audit pen.
Okay, so it sounds like you're about to talk with a large group of former administration and campaign officials. You know, when you look at all of this, there were so many pardons and there were so many executive orders. I believe Joe Biden made like 160 executive orders over his 4-year term. How many of those are you questioning?
Well, we're questioning all the ones that were made in the last year. We're really focused on the ones made in the last 100 days. I've said this before, there was more activity out of the White House during the last 100 days than at any point in the previous 3.5 years of the Biden administration. This is at a time when you're talking about post-debate. The secret was out. Everyone knew Joe Biden wasn't at the top of his game at best, or you know, in a complete state of mental invalidness at worst. He was spending the majority of his time in Delaware. He wasn't even in the White House. We know who was in the White House at the time. There were staffers and family members that spent a lot of time in the White House at that time. That's when all of the executive orders were signed using the audit pen. So we want to know the process. We've identified, first of all, the staffers that actually were tasked with putting the documents in the audit pen and pressing the power button. We want to know who gave them the authority to do that. We believe we know, but we're going to follow the trail. And again, Maria, I can't say how fast we're moving with the new information that's coming in, the new whistleblowers, the Tapper book, as well as people that have agreed to come in and voluntarily answer our questions.
Well, it's just extraordinary to me that so many people were encouraging him to run for president, including Dr. Jill Biden, the First Lady, telling him, run, keep going, keep going. And in fact, you believe they all knew about all of his cognitive issues. I mean, it was hard not to know. We all watched it. We talked about it on this program, of course. I mean, here's the conversation that I was having back in 2021. Watch this. We know that Biden is weak. We're not sure about his mental capacity. We know somebody else is running things, but the alternative is even worse. Kamala Harris. How is that presidential story going to look? One concern the Democrats have for Biden 2024 is his age and health. I mean, look, we all watch him. It doesn't bring anybody any joy to point out cognitive issues. I mean, this is back in 2021 and 2022, Congressman, and yet we're, you know, supposed to be surprised that he wasn't doing well. It was all on display for everyone to see. So how did they do it, do you think? They were just running and shaping policy without his knowledge?
That's what a lot of people suspect. That's what the evidence that I've seen thus far would suggest. We're going to give these staffers due process. We're going to give Joe Biden due process. We're going to give the whole White House due process. We've notified them. They know they're coming in. Anyone who is involved in the White House is going to be asked to come in, whether that's high-level staffers, cabinet secretaries, or even family members. Whoever was involved in the process, as we bring in these lower-level staffers and try to understand how so many documents ended up being signed with the auto pen, and so much activity during the last 100 days at a time when Joe Biden was, by all accounts, checked out. And I'll say this, Maria, your history is going to be kind to you on all the criticism and observations you made of the Biden administration, because you've been right about everything, and I appreciate the great job you've done in getting the truth to the American people.
Thank you so much for that, Congressman. I remember I was at the inauguration on January 20th, and 20 minutes before President Trump was inaugurated, I looked at my phone. It was 20 minutes before he went and took the oath, and Joe Biden's pardoning people 20 minutes before. I thought, that's weird. It's January 20th. He's still doing pardons?
Pardoning his family, his immediate family, his entire family, while he's sitting on the stage. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
Right.
And I think now the media has realized that protecting Joe Biden isn't in style anymore. And I think they've completely walked away, which is good for our investigation. We shouldn't face the same level of left-wing media weaponization as we faced during the Biden influence peddling investigation.
So what are the consequences of all of this, Mr. Chairman? I mean, when you look about all of the decisions made and how everything affected the American people, this sounds like a really big White House scandal. What would you assess should be the main consequences of this?
Well, first of all, the validity of the executive orders. Look, a lot of these executive orders, especially during the last 100 days, were meant to Trump-proof the next administration. They weren't shy about that. The staffers bragged about that. The left-wing media took that and ran and said, you know, Joe Biden's going to be considered a great president. He's doing all this stuff at the end of his administration. And what they were saying was code word. We're trying to do everything we can to prevent Trump from achieving his legislative and executive goals as president. They were Trump-proofing it. That was a word the media used. Now, if these executive orders were just done and authorized by staff and Joe Biden's signature was forged on the auto pen, as some would believe, then I think that the Trump administration is going to have a pretty good standing in court to get rid of a lot of these executive orders that are hindering his agenda in the first 6 months of his presidency.
Well, you know what gets me? All that time, the whole campaign, the Democrats kept saying President Trump is a detriment to democracy, is a threat to democracy and the Constitution. All the while, they're in fact threatening democracy.
Absolutely. You're 100% right.
Let me get your take on what's going on now. All we hear are the fighting words from the Democrats, your colleagues. Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has formalized her bid to lead the House Oversight Committee. She's pitching herself as your replacement. She claims it's a fresh face to take on the GOP majority, Mr. Chairman. No comments whatsoever about all the money that you have uncovered that Hunter Biden has received over the years. No comment on this cover-up of Joe Biden. She claims she's going to launch a Trump impeachment inquiry if she wins, and she wants your job. Your reaction?
Well, hopefully the Democrats won't ever see the majority again. I would hope that the Democrat conference would have more sense than to put someone like Jasmine Crockett in there. She doesn't care about waste, fraud, and abuse. She's been on the committee for 4 years, and she's never once raised a concern about excessive spending. You know, money grows on trees. It comes down like manna from heaven in the eyes of Democrat liberal members like Jasmine Crockett. So she just wants to be a chairman of the House Oversight Committee so she can harass and obstruct the Trump administration. I think the American people saw that, and that's why they voted for Trump. That's why they voted to keep a Republican majority in the House and to flip the Senate to Republican majority. Republicans are trying to govern. Governing sometimes is an ugly process, but we're trying to govern. We're trying to pass this big, beautiful bill. We're trying to save taxpayer dollars. All the Democrats want to do is attack Trump, and Jasmine Crockett's the poster child for that.
Well, it's a good point to bring up because the big, beautiful bill needs to pass for you all to have the success that you're looking for in the 2026 elections. But here you've got Elon Musk blasting the big, beautiful bill. You saw what he said. He called it a disgusting abomination. The words throwing fire into the Senate's plans just as they're trying to pass this by the July 4th holiday. Former Doge cost cutter sparking rebukes, obviously, from the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. He said he was disappointed by Musk. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, all pushed back. What are your thoughts here in terms of what's going on in the Senate? Do you expect this to pass before the end of July?
I do expect it to pass. You know, I was communicating with Ted Cruz a few weeks ago. He's very optimistic. You know, Ted Cruz is a consistent conservative. He's trying to do everything he can to make the bill better in the Senate. Make it a better deal for the American taxpayers. I have confidence that Ted Cruz can do that. I want to support President Trump and his agenda. The big, beautiful bill is that. So it's disappointing that Elon Musk said what he said. It wasn't helpful, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to sway very much influence. We're focused on passing President Trump's agenda, and I'm confident there are enough senators that will pass that bill out of the Senate, and hopefully we can agree to the changes that they make in the Senate and get President Trump his first major legislative victory of his second term.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're going to be watching your work as always. We so appreciate your time this morning, sir. Thank you.